You just tuned in with Fishing with Pecan. Today I'm going to teach you how to dissect a flipping bite, and there's really three things you need to key in on. Alright, number one is the water depth, number two is the water clarity, and number three is the water temperature. And we're going to start on the water depth. Why is this important, you might ask? Typically, the water depth is important because it really keys you in on what action of the bait you need to use and the size sinker. Like if I'm out there and I'm in 12 foot of water flipping laydowns, I'm probably going to want to move it up to about a 1/2 ounce sinker or 3/8 ounce, just depending on the water clarity. Typically you want a bait with a lot of action like this Zoom Z-Crawl, because them fish can really key in on that vibration as it falls, and they, even though they might not be right there where the bait went in at, they might follow it up to maybe 5-10 feet away, and they'll follow that bait and see what it is, and they're going to investigate it. One thing that gets overlooked a lot is the water clarity. A lot of guys get stuck in the same sinkers using the same ounce all the time, and that's really the wrong choice when you're fishing dirty water. Typically dirty water, I want something that want to have a slower sink, like maybe an 1/8 ounce or 1/4 ounce. And I mean, the reason for this is the longer that bait takes to fall to the bottom, that's the longer them fish have to key in on it. And thirdly, we're going to talk about the water clarity. Well, not water clarity, but we're going to talk about the temperature. And the reason the temperature is important is because a good rule of thumb for me is 55 degrees or below. They might not want a bait that has a lot of action, you know. I mean, these fish, they're in 55 degree water. They're cold-blooded, they're lethargic. They don't want that bait that's going to be going crazy on the fall down like the Z-Crawl. The Z-Crawl has a lot of action. It's the wrong choice when you're really flipping in cold water. Typically in colder water, I'm going to go with something more along the lines of a Strike King Rodent or a Missile D-Bomb or even a Berkley Chigger Crawl, just because it doesn't really have, like, it has action but doesn't have a lot of action like the Z-Crawl with these big kicking tails. And one thing I keyed in on a while back, I was out on Lake Russell and I was flipping the standing timber out in 20 foot of water. And I was fishing this Smash Tube by Berkley. And I really keyed in on this. The water temperature was about 56 degrees. They were lethargic at the time. We had muddy water conditions. And I chose to flip this on these big cedar trees and stuff standing out in the water, and I was fishing it with a 3/8 ounce weight. And the reason I went with a 3/8 ounce was because it's a little slower than a 1/2 ounce, and these fish were really pulled up tight to them trees. Also a while back, I was on Lake Hartwell. I went with Berkley Havoc Pit Boss, and again, these fish were in deeper water. They were in about 10 to 12 foot. And I decided to go with a 1/2 ounce sinker. We were in a clear part of the lake. They were keying in on more of the fall. So really with that 1/2 ounce sinker, that bait kind of went down to the bottom fairly quickly. The fish didn't have a lot of time to really investigate it on the fall. They wanted to go, they seen it go down to the bottom, and then they immediately went after it. And that's typically the case in shallower water too, depending on if the water's clear in shallow water. If the water's dirty, I would typically like a lighter ounce weight, just because it takes a little while for them fish to find the bait. A while back I was on Toho. We had calm waters. I mean, the water down there was fairly clear. I went with the Fighting Bug by Berkley, and I had it rigged up on a 1.25 ounces. And I mean, this Fighting Bug with this 1.25 ounces, I mean, they would see this bait come through that matted vegetation. It shot down to the bottom immediately. Half the time when I picked up the rod, they were already on it. So you really need to key in on that. Stay tuned. We have more videos coming up. We're going to have some more how-tos. We're also going to have some great fishing videos. It's starting to be spring of the year. Hit the subscribe button, and good luck out there.